For millions of young people, competitive exams represent a basic promise. If you put in the hours and master the material, the system rewards you fairly. It's a merit-based pathway to a stable future. But that bargain only works if the process is completely impenetrable. From the moment questions are printed to the second booklets are opened in the testing hall, the system relies on an unbroken chain of secrecy. That chain fractured completely with the Pariksha leak. The secure distribution pipeline failed, and questions bypassed testing halls entirely. Instantly, the legitimate efforts of thousands were erased. Months of preparation and carefully laid plans were rendered meaningless overnight. This level of compromise renders the entire testing process illegitimate, violating the specific agreement the state makes with its youth to provide a fair path forward. The fallout from this breach immediately centralized in New Delhi, turning the nation's capital into the primary arena for the backlash. Thousands of students abandoned their studies and took to the streets. The reaction was raw and immediate, driven by a deep sense of betrayal as massive crowds began to mobilize across the city. The students are calling for a complete overhaul of the security protocols and criminal prosecution for those who allowed the leak to occur. By occupying the capital center, the students transformed a technical failure in the education ministry into a high-stakes emergency for the national government. The demonstrations quickly expanded beyond isolated pockets, sprawling across specific neighborhoods and effectively paralyzing local infrastructure and daily routines. With thousands of people holding their ground, their sheer volume created a massive operational choke point, grinding traffic and transit in the affected areas to a halt. The physical boundaries of the city inevitably clashed with the momentum of the crowd. What started as a peaceful assembly rapidly escalated into high tension and direct physical confrontation at police barricades. Any initial attempts at official dialogue evaporated. Frustration outpaced communication on the ground, leaving both sides locked in a tense standoff without a clear channel for negotiation. The friction on the streets proved one thing: the failure of a bureaucratic educational pipeline had successfully mutated into a volatile urban law and order crisis. Facing a loss of control over key districts, the state reacted by deploying a heavy police presence. Their immediate priority was to forcefully contain the escalating tension and clear the bottlenecks. This meant active enforcement on the ground. Officers began physically moving through the crowds and initiating detentions to break up the mass gatherings. Authorities are now caught in a severely conflicting mandate. They have a strict directive to restore public order, but they are deploying force against citizens who have an entirely valid and recognized academic grievance. As security forces tightened perimeters around major government zones, the barricades only served to amplify the anxiety and anger of the youth demanding answers. Physical containment measures address the symptoms of the protest, but the underlying resentment regarding the compromised exam remains unaddressed. Away from the barricades, the uncontrollable optics of the protests forced the highest levels of government to react. The state initiated an emergency bureaucratic maneuver, fast-tracking a high-level investigation to uncover exactly how the Pariksha paper was leaked. The structural goal is straightforward. Investigators must trace the fallout back to a single bureaucratic source to salvage institutional credibility. But under extreme time pressure and unrelenting public scrutiny, the window to deliver answers is closing rapidly. Ultimately, this expedited probe is entirely reactive, a desperate scramble to patch a broken dam long after the flood has swept through the valley. The images coming out of Delhi have now captured the attention and anxiety of the broader public across the country. This has triggered a national debate focused on the specific weak points in the way India secures its testing materials. The leak in a single office revealed a vulnerability that impacts the future of students in every state across the country. Until the security gaps are closed, students will continue to view the entire testing process with skepticism. For those currently waiting in the wings, the damage to the system's reputation remains a major obstacle.